What criteria do you recommend using when choosing the best mastermind or peer group for a company's specific business goals?
Yeah, I think you want to look for, obviously get clear on what you're trying to accomplish. Are you looking to grow top line? Are you looking to increase profitability? Are you looking to improve your marketing?
Hey, how's it going? It's Tim Brown. This is the Plumbing and HVAC Hustle Podcast. And today we're talking about the power of masterminds and why you should be part of one with Josh Nelson, who runs the mastermind that I'm part of. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing awesome, man. Glad to be here.
And it's a seven-figure agency, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I just want to talk about what have you seen work for home service businesses that are part of masterminds as well? Because I'm assuming something inspired you to start this group. And I don't know that it was from our end. Like, we both serve HVAC and plumbing a bit as well, and roofing. I serve roofing. What is something that got you started on this? Like, how did this come to be?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, I will say I have just seen a very consistent theme amongst the clients we work with, the ones that grow, the ones that really have success. They've chosen to participate in peer groups, in masterminds, very abundance-minded, sharing what's working for them, and also open to learning from others. And I'm a big believer in that. I'm a student of the game. When I first started our agency, Plumbing and HVAC SEO, I was going to all of the digital marketing conferences and all of those trainings. And I learned so much from other people. And I started having people asking like, hey, how are you growing? What are you doing differently? And I just embraced this idea that rather than trying to do it all on my own or trying to leave people on their own, it's bring us together. Why don't we all share what's working, what's not working, learn from each other? And I found that, a rising tide raises all boats. We grow, our clients get better results. We elevate as human beings, as leaders. And so that's why I'm just a big believer in why I started the mastermind, that we run.
Absolutely. So we're kind of getting into it, but why should HVAC, plumbing, and home service businesses join a mastermind group, and what specific value can it provide to their growth?
Man, so many benefits. I think the most basic, if you go back to Think and Grow Rich, the big concept there was you're going to become an average of the people that you affiliate with most. And if you're running a home service company on your own, you're going to have your friends and your family. Some of them maybe run businesses, probably most of them don't. And so you don't have access to other people that are crushing it in their business. And so just by virtue of proximity, because you join one of these groups and you get access to other people, you elevate your standards. You elevate your thinking about what's possible. And so that in and of itself, is a reason you want to participate in these types of programs. But I think you also get massive learning, right? If you're doing your business on your own and you're trying to figure out how you're going to charge, how you're going to hire, how you're going to retain, how you're going to market yourself, and you're figuring out all on your own, you've got a limited context, you've got a limited knowledge base, versus you plug into one of these peer groups or one of these masterminds where there's dozens or hundreds of people that you form relationships with. Well, they're all coming with their best ideas. They're all coming with what's working in their business, and you can shortcut what could take you a generation, could take you a decade. You can shortcut that learning down to a couple of months, right? Because you're remaining on the cutting edge and you're learning not from your own understanding, but from the hundreds of other contractors that are there, that are sharing, and that are kind of showing you what's working in their worlds.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm talking about marketing here too. And I think that people might wonder, hey, how does this relate to marketing? But there's so many things you learn quickly, right? And we don't just want to, as a home service business, I don't believe that you want to just outsource everything on your marketing. I believe you should be involved and you should be experimenting as a business owner, but also as you start to maybe hire one or two people internally. I think that that's the ideal scenario, is then you have them be the general contractor for the marketing and then build from there. And you can use vendors as appropriate, but then you own it and you own the result. And there's like an extreme ownership quality there. This matters because you learn from the people. Like we're part of this mastermind, seven-figure agency, and we just hired Alaric Heck to work with our video guy, Jack, on video ads. So by being part of this Mastermind, we found resources. We found great resources, and we're connected with them in such a way that I think he gave us a great deal. That's how I felt. He did a great job of making me feel like I got a great deal. So there's opportunity to get connected with resources as well. And we all need resources. We all need help kind of dominating our marketing in the way we want to too. Another weird thing, I'm going to ask the next question in a second, but a lot of people get scared of mastermind, or like a lot of people get scared of gurus in any industry, right? I'm sure agency guys get scared of gurus. I've seen some gurus that maybe shouldn't be gurus yet. You know, they're very early and they're trying to do the thing. But for whatever reason, home services hates gurus, HVAC, plumbing. A lot of them there's a lot of people that seem mad. This is not a guru situation. When you're plugging into a mastermind, you're plugging into a bunch of companies, and you're kind of committing to try to learn from those companies and share what you know with those companies. You don't have to like subscribe to a particular ideology or whatever. And then the other thing that I was kind of thinking about is I almost feel like we're all part of a mastermind, whether we want to be or not. If you're not part of an official mastermind where you're trying to learn from companies that are doing what you want to do, you're part of a social media mastermind. And somebody put it in an HVAC home services group the other day. They said it's like death by Facebook, because a lot of these home service businesses are learning from everybody on the internet, and they don't have the ability to look at that person's company and go, oh, is this somebody I should be listening to? And you may have seen this. I've seen this where a lot of people are very active on Facebook when they don't have a lot going on with their business. So if you're getting everybody recommending all these different things, change your CRM, change your brand, change your this, and you're trying to change 5-10 things in 1 year, you're excited, you're buying too much stuff, you could get really, really screwed up. So by being part of an official mastermind, you're making a little bit more of, I'm looking at the companies a little bit more deeply that I'm taking recommendations from. And sometimes there'll be people in that mastermind that you're like, I don't know if I want to take that or whatever, but you can at least look at their business and a little bit more in depth before taking the recommendations, like sometimes happens on Facebook.
Yeah, you've got to consider the source of where you're getting information, right? And if you're more successful than the person that's telling you, oh, you should change this or you should do that, you got to consider that source. And it's very hard to get around a world-class peer group at random, right? Yeah. Those relationships, those communities are curated, right? And you can start to say, okay, well, there's a really successful home service company that's doing whatever. If you're at 10, that's doing $20 million per year. And they've got it structured in a way that I like, that I admire, that I would like to try and accomplish in my business. You can consider that source and accept that feedback. That doesn't mean that if somebody's smaller than you, you still can't learn from them. But at least it gives you the context to consider the source and make sure that you're modeling the type of behavior that you want to accomplish.
So Rilla allows you to listen to it's an AI in your pocket, listens to the appointment. It's pretty crazy what it can do. It gives a script, it gives everything they said, it breaks down some statistics for you.
Analyze talk ratio, interactivity, like how you and I are interacting back and forth, longest modeling, like all those things.
Honestly, this is the shit that I most believe in AI. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Enhancing the
You're
user
about to put
experience.
math and data around something that used to be my magic skill.
Exactly. And we say smaller, she'll say profitability wise, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to be big and not be profitable. So I think that's a big emphasis of me joining a peer group too, is there are some smaller companies in there that have more profit than me. So I have to figure out what they're doing in some cases that's really, really good. What criteria do you recommend using when choosing the best mastermind or peer group for a company's specific business goals?
Yeah, I think you want to look for, obviously get clear on what you're trying to accomplish. Are you looking to grow top line? Are you looking to increase profitability? Are you looking to improve your marketing, right? There's going to be different groups that have specialties or focuses potentially in those areas. I think you also want to find out who's participating, right? Because it could be a great sounding group with a great offer, But at the end of the day, it's going to be about who else is in that group that you want to get to know, that you can learn from, that you can rub elbows with, that you can get connections and relationships from. So I think, make sure that it's a quality group, that it's actually well structured, that there's going to be some live component to it. We all live in a digital world. We all love being on Zoom and stuff, but a lot of relationship building and a lot of true breakthrough happens when you're live and in person. So definitely those things, plus getting at least some form of a list of who's in the group, so you can make sure you're going to match the caliber of the people that are going to be in there.
In your experience running the mastermind that you run, 7-figure agency, how do mastermind groups help participants prioritize their focus and eliminate distractions?
Yeah. Well, I think that's some of that comes down to the individual, right? You still have to take accountability for your individual goals, what your focus is right now. I think sometimes we get busy in minutia, right? We just get busy doing the things, chasing the shiny object, the new idea that just propped up over here. When you're in a mastermind group with other successful people that are accomplishing big things, that are growing top line, growing profitability, you start to see what they're focused on and what they're doing. And just that shift in focus can have a big impact on what you end up doing and the results that you end up generating.
Yeah, and I know that we locked in stuff. So in Josh's mastermind, we were locking in our goals, and then you share them with people, and then you're encouraged to kind of connect with people about that. And once you start saying it, our goal is to be this percentage profitable. Our goal is to grow this amount this next 3 months. Those are the types of things that once you set up people over there, because it's all good and well to write it down and talk to your own team about it. But once somebody else outside of your team knows about it, you feel social pressure. So what we need to do is kind of leverage the social pressure for our own psychology. And I've really benefited from that already. Like I had, we did something with Eric from Rival where I said, all right, here's our goal. We both want to add 50K MRR or whatever it was in the next 3 months. And if we don't, then we get to, the person who doesn't will get their head shaved by the other one. So
that's power.
And you know how good his hair is.
He's got, he doesn't mess around with that.
He's got that mullet going. I used to have a mullet with that, but it didn't have quite the same amount of flow he's got. So we both really didn't want to hit that. And he hit that at the very last second because he's like, I definitely didn't want to have to shave my head. So both consequences and rewards, but setting those up. And you've done a great job about encouraging the companies that are part of 7-figure agency to do that. I also see in the peer groups that I see in the home service space that people get these a little bit closer, like relationships, conversations going with people. It's who you meet. It's who you meet. That's the beauty of these things. You do a great job at structuring them, at putting together like a good experience in person, which I appreciate because I have ADD. So, Zoom is a little hard sometimes. But then you meet people and you kind of get a little bit deeper with them, and a few other great companies that I really like in there, like Rotate Digital and some other ones. But just really cool people too that are part of it. And so that's from my point of view, it's just being around other people that are kind of like-minded. Can you share?
A lot of people think they're going to join a mastermind just to learn, right? They're going to learn tactical things. But it's like you said, it's the relationships that you form. It's the conversations that happen in the after hours. It's having that person that is successful, that you can count on, that you can call in a pinch and say, hey, I need some feedback. I need some advice. It's also just elevating what you think as possible in the real world, because you're around people that are accomplishing bigger things. And it changes your context. It changes your outcomes. Yeah,
exactly. Because I think sometimes of myself as rare and special or something, but I think there is something beautiful about being part. Like there was a bunch of people that hit like 5, 6, 7 million, cranking towards 10 in that group, and in an agency world, that is kind of rare. But once you get around a bunch of people doing those things, then you're like, oh, that's not that crazy. And it's almost a benefit to not think of yourself as so special. And I would assume that's the case for a lot of these home service business owners. No offense.
Yeah.
Just like us marketing agency owners, you guys have some egos. And so like once you're the big dog in your area, it does feel sometimes like no one else has my problems. Yeah. In recovery, I'm in recovery as well. We call it terminally unique. Because if you think of yourself as so unique, you can't accept help, And so it's been a struggle for me, and it's been difficult for me to stop thinking of myself as so unique. I mean, I'm sure I'm special, but
You're special. You're super special.
But there's so many other agency owners. There's so many other business owners just like you that could, and I'll just say it for me. There's so many other business owners that are going through all the same things as I am, if I'm honest. And there's a lot of other big ones. Like there's a lot of other ones that are doing really cool things that are amazing. And it's okay to not be perfectly special. You're still awesome.
Yeah, I think the one last point I'll make on that, and I think you explained it so well, is that if you're the contractor in your area doing 5 million or whatever the number is that's big to you right now, and everybody you know is doing 2 or 3 million, you're like, you feel like the top dog, and that's your comfort zone. The minute you step into a group where everybody in that group's doing $10 million, $20 million per year, all of a sudden you're a little guy, and that's a good thing, right? You don't want to be the biggest player in your peer group because that's going to force you out of your comfort zone, and your new normal or your new ambition becomes that $10, $20 million range. And sometimes you have to get around that peer group to even unlock that possibility for yourself.
And I'm going to keep on bringing it back to something I'm working on, which is like, if you get around a bunch of people who are 20% profitable and you're 10%, then wow, you can unlock some stuff. And I do think like Nexstar and several of these other home service masterminds are really good at kind of bringing everyone back. Ken Goodrich he talked about it back in his day. I read the E-Myth for HVAC contractors, and it's really, really good. And he talks a lot about like when they started to talk about that more, and that everyone was talking about that, and they flipped it to like, don't just tell me your revenue. So I've been doing that with this group. I say our revenue, which feels a little bit impressive to some of them, but then I talk about profit, and I kind of like open my kimono, which is not as good. And so that idea of being a little bit more vulnerable, which is hard, is part of what you're looking for in a group, I think. And I think that I've experienced that with your group. Can you give any like specific examples, just to go to 7-figure agency for a second? I'm sure we'll have a little bit of dual listenership, but I also think it just displays what's possible with masterminds, of like a company that accelerated growth after joining your mastermind, or if you have like companies that that have participated in home service masterminds.
Hey there, are you a home service business owner that's tired of your answering service just kicking the can down the road? Well, we can help. Pink Collars will assign a dedicated, supported, and trained individual to answer your phones, emails, texts, and even more. Give us a call at 888-325-7465, or better yet, check us out online, www.pinkcolors.com.
Yeah, I can definitely give some great examples in the home services. I mean, as well as in 7-figure agency. So a great example would be Austin Hauser from Base Coat Marketing. He specializes in painting contractors. Was trying to figure it out, was trying to figure out how he's going to grow the agency. Literally grew from $2,000 a monthly recurring to $90,000 a monthly recurring. That was huge, right? That was a big transition. Plugged into the mastermind, got around the other multiple 7-figure agencies, and has since gone to almost $280,000 in monthly recurring revenue in relatively short window of time. And so again, like when you're doing the work and you get around the right peer group, it can really accelerate your growth.
May I ask, like, just for selfishly for a second, like what are some of like the levers that he tapped into that like ended up being so good for him from the group?
Yeah, I think for him, a lot of the growth strategies worked really well. Being consistent with webinars, putting out great content to get authority positioning within the industry, and then operationally, he really bought into this idea that he's got to build the team, and so he implemented all the strategies on implementing EOS, the Entrepreneur's Operating System, setting up the level 10 meetings, setting up the accountability chart, getting the scorecards dialed in. And then just really taking a close look at the financials, being a student of the numbers. Like you've said it again and again and again, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and really having the financial set up in a way where you're operating based on the numbers within the business, and not just the top line number, but the bottom line number as well.
What's the single biggest mindset shift you've seen happen when someone gets deeply involved in a high performing peer group?
I think the biggest mindset shift is just the context on what's possible. And a lot of times, like you get to your certain level, $1 million per year, you're thinking that's great, and then you step into the group and you see someone like Neil Trickett doing $8 million per year, and you're like, well, wait a minute, that's possible in a digital marketing agency. He doesn't seem that much smarter than me, and it changes your context, and then you go and take different actions, right? And so that's all what's happening in between the years.
I love that, man. I soaked up Neil's takes on things. He's a very smart guy, and it's kind of like what a question I always ask when I'm around people that I'm like, I really want to learn from them, right? Is like, what do you spend your time on? As a CEO at a certain size, because you kind of have the opportunity to spend it on whatever, right? I've got people on marketing and video, and now I'm starting to be like, oh, I could make something happen with this extra time. But it's like, how do you make sure you're spending it on the right stuff? And so kind of just picking his brain. I think that that's a good question for people that are kind of in that spot where they could have a little bit more time freedom. And, vision, he was talking about vision being a big one. I don't remember all of his answers. I know that, promotions. So like strategic marketing, promotion type things. Accountability. I'm spending a little bit more time, leadership, obviously, spending time on those things. But I think just getting to pick these people's brains, and I get the benefit of running podcasts. So I'm always picking people's brains. That's kind of a little bit like a mastermind too. And but I needed something specifically for my group. And I do think if you're running a podcast, this is kind of niche thing, but if you were running a podcast, I do think people shouldn't run a podcast directed at their own niche. Like if they're a roofer, they shouldn't do a podcast for the roofing industry. I think generally they should be targeting their customers, right? So I do see sometimes people kind of use them like masterminds, and I was tempted to do that, just start bringing on a bunch of agencies on here. But I generally, 1 out of every 10 or 20, I'll bring in an agency because they have interesting things to say and stuff like that. All right, I'm off on a rabbit trail. What would you say? What would you like people to leave with about the power of masterminds? What else have you seen? Feel free to get deep with us for a moment before we say goodbye.
Yeah, I think, if you can open yourself up to the possibility of getting around other really successful people and not just going in to get, right? I think, a lot of times we enter these groups and I'm going to pick everybody's brain. I'm going to get all the insights. I'm going to get all the learnings. But some of the biggest breakthrough that you're going to get is when you go in thinking, how can I share, right? Because if you're a home service company, you're thinking about joining a mastermind, you've figured things out in your own business, in your own right, whether it's on the hiring side, on the recruiting side, on the, keeping the team side, or on the closing in the home. You figured things out. You've got value to share. And what's interesting is that there's this principle of reciprocity. When you go in and you give value to somebody else, that's going to improve your understanding of that concept. That's going to help you really become more salient with the understanding of that idea or that thing that you did. but you're also going to tap into reciprocity in that other individual is going to be like, well, wow, you just gave me massive value. I need to give that back to you and figure out a way to support you in a similar way. And so, you're just going to be able to multiply your outcomes and multiply your understanding by stepping out of your comfort zone, by stepping out of your day-to-day and getting out in the world with other people of similar mindset.
I appreciate this. And I kind of talked to you about this before we did the podcast, but a big piece was I kept on getting around higher level HVAC, plumbing, home service business owners that kept on saying in podcasts, they'd just be like, oh yeah, masterminds were a huge piece. Like get around a peer group, get around people that you want to be like, learn from them, hold each other accountable, get into it with them and like share stuff, real stuff with them. And so that was the biggest reason that I joined one. So that's why I joined Seven Figure Agency. And I keep on recommending this to home service business owners. So I knew I had to, you know what I mean? Like it's when you find yourself recommending something over and over again and you're not doing it, that you're like, oh, I need to do this. And so I wanted to say thank you. It has been a really good experience being part of yours. I think you guys do an incredible job with the organization, a little bougie even. It feels good in there. It feels good. They have like a acai bowls. I just learned how to say that. They have fresh juices. They make it feel like kind of an elevated environment. And the physical ones, and those are the ones that I take the most from. It's such a good experience. I just brought 3 of the people from my executive team out there with me, and they picked a bunch of people's brains. And I feel like we came back kind of encouraged and as well, like just with a bunch of stuff to implement. So that's my experience with Seven Figure Agency. So I highly recommend it. And as well, I think that if you're not part of one of these, not to say every one of them is going to have acai bowls, but that you will also find some kinship, some belonging with different groups. So I just recommend you get out there and try one. And if it doesn't work for you, try one again the next year. Don't just get stuck in this anti-guru state.
Yeah.
Push past that and look for peers in a safe environment where you can get better together. And I think even though I've struggled a bit with being vulnerable, that I have hope that I'll be able to do that better and learn from people more. So Josh, thank you very much for letting me be part of your group. And if you don't mind giving us just a little bit about your 2 companies here at the end.
Well, first of all, thanks for saying that. And you and the entire Hook team, we're honored to have you as part of Seven Figure Agency. You were on our list of, like we've got specific agencies we target, and we're like, man, Tim Brown and that organization would fit in really nicely. And you've been an amazing addition to the community. We're always trying to find people that are going to hopefully give value, but also will add exponential value to the community. I think you do that, right? You really elevate the room, you elevate the conversations, and people come back and like, oh, I got a chance to sit and talk with Tim at a table and he gave me all these great ideas. So appreciate what you do to support the community and come in with that abundance mindset that you're giving as much as you get.
Thank you.
Like the 2 companies, one Plumbing and HVAC SEO, it's a digital marketing agency for plumbing, HVAC, electrical contractors. And then Seven Figure Agency is our coaching, mentorship, mastermind program for digital marketing agencies looking to grow and scale.
Well, thank you, Josh, for being part of the project. Really appreciate you being on. And where can people check you out?
sevenfigureagency.com or plumberseo.net.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.